Trek to Yomi is one of the prettiest games you'll play this year. Purely in terms of visuals, it's a masterclass in cinematic game design. Every frame is a work of art, a painting, handcrafted masterpieces that won't look out of place in any famous art gallery. It boasts of the same starkly beautiful, perhaps overly dramatic art style that Kurosawa's movies are known for. Each frame carries with it a sense of dynamism and motion, and each set piece is unique and usually presented from a unique perspective. You could be fighting on a bridge, viewing the scene from the perspective of a fisherman on his boat, or taking in the scene from behind the planks of a burning home. The game's visual design is artistic in a way that few games can ever hope to be, paying homage to 50s Japanese cinema and perfectly encapsulating what it would be like to exist in one of Kurosawa's cinematic worlds. It is sad then that Yomi has little to offer beyond that visual feast, which, while scrumptious enough in itself, doesn't make up for the lack of story or underwhelming gameplay. The story isn't bad, but it sticks with the familiar samurai movie tropes of duty, honor, and justice. Everything that we've long since grown accustomed to owing to the likes of, again, Kurosawa and his ilk. It feels compelling enough while you're playing, delivering enough motivation to keep moving forward. But it's a cliched narrative that doesn't engender either interest or curiosity. Gameplay somehow is even worse, and I usually found myself underwhelmed and bored. You look and move like a samurai, but you never feel like one. A samurai is meant to be fast, fluid, and decisive, striking with solemn and deadly precision. Yomi Samurai feels floaty and imprecise. His strikes lack weight, the animation and timing feel out of sync with your button presses, and feedback is minimal. I expect to hear the deafening clang of metal on metal as swords meet, to see sparks fly as their parry charges. What I get instead is perhaps a muted clink and a bit of slow-mo. Enemy design is just as dull. They're largely similar and rarely challenging. It's not that I didn't die often or that the game was too easy. It's just that when I died, it was usually because I couldn't see what was happening, got stuck on hidden geometry, or simply couldn't tell whether I'd been staggered or not. The game offers you an ever-expanding repertoire of movesets to play around with, but I found myself sticking to a reliable weight parry lunge combo for basically the entire game, including bosses. Enemies may come at you in groups, but they only attack one at a time. A few special enemies with armor, spears, bows, etc. do spice things up a little bit, but you can usually just run up to them and repeat the same weight parry lunge combo to dispatch them. Yomi is a beautiful game, but when I think back on the 4 to 5 hours I spent in its world, I only remember its haunting atmosphere and the drudgery of its combat. The story is largely forgotten, and I couldn't stomach the thought of repeating another 4 to 6 hours of tedious fighting just to unlock all the endings. Much like 2021's The Artful Escape, Trek to Yomi is more art than game, one that could have earned the instant classic badge if its combat had been as compelling as its visuals. Trek to Yomi is a short game that doesn't overstay its welcome, but this also isn't a game I'd pay the 700 rupees asking price for. It is free on Game Pass, however, and if you're a subscriber who happens to have a hankering for an old school Kurosawa style experience on a lazy weekend, Yomi is certainly worth checking out.